Hello. Hiya. Um,
Just trying to fix this.
well, good morning. This is Elaine Glover, and today I'm interviewing Ronit from Magan David Adom in Israel. So, good morning, Ronit.
Good morning.
You've had a bit of a busy time, haven't you, lately?
Definitely never a dull moment.
No. Well, anyway, today I wanted to talk about what happened on the 7th of October 23, because in our country, um, the media is so anti-Semitic, but also we get no real information of what happened. I have watched a lot of YouTube clips, and have we've had two ladies that came to the synagogue in Bournemouth who were in the kibbutz and their lives were saved. Um, but what I want to know, Ronit, is from your point of view, what actually happened on that particular day, on the 7th of October.
No problem. So on that day in Magen David Adom at 6:29 in the morning, we started receiving calls and red alert sirens of things happening down south. Didn't quite understand what it was yet. A bit before 7, all of a sudden we heard that there were paratroopers landing in an area down south. Very, very quickly, Eli Bean, our Director General, got the whole picture from the dispatchers in Magen David Adom, who received calls from the field of people being attacked, of people at the Nova Festival, that terrorists came in and started attacking there, of missiles sent all over the country, that the whole country got sirens and everyone thought it was a malfunction of the red alert siren system. Very, very quickly before 7 a.m., Eli Bean, our Director General, let the government know, let the Prime Minister know, let the Army know, everyone, that we are in a very different situation right now. Now, I was in Jerusalem. I was asleep until 8 a.m. when there was a red alert siren here. But as soon as we were requested to go in, I went into the dispatch center with my two daughters on our way from home to the Magen David Adom station in Jerusalem. There were 3 red alert sirens that we had to stop in the car on the side of the road. My girls had to lay face down on the ground. I lay on top of them with my hands on their heads, and my sweet 9-year-old said, "But mommy, who's going to cover your head?" And all I could say was, "As long as you're safe, I'll be okay." I got to the station, and as soon as I walked into the dispatch center, I saw the chaos, and it's nothing like I've ever seen before. I've been in Magen David Adom for 30 years, and I was here during the Second Intifada with all of the mass casualty events, with all the bombings. This is nothing similar to anything that we had before. We got so many calls, thousands of calls, if not more than that, from people who were trying to hide from terrorists running away from the Nova Festival, from people who were in their safe rooms on the kibbutz or different places down there, who had their door locked, saying either terrorists are trying to break down the door, or they're burning my house and smoke is coming into me, or we were injured and we got into the safe room only after we were injured. Children asking how to treat their parents, things that we couldn't believe. And more than anything else, we saw over the first few days the footage that the Hamas terrorists took on body cameras when they went into Israel and they attacked, footage of awful things that we did that they showed the whole world. Stuff that we could not believe actually happened. Stuff that I just had a discussion today with someone this morning about how I don't understand how people who are, they're made of the same thing as us. They have bones and blood and skin, and their body systems work the same way, and they're able to do such terrible things. They're able to decapitate children. A friend of mine told me on Kibbutz Be'eri that there was a house outside of the house was a pile of children's bodies, and
Mm.
inside the house, their heads were on the shelves inside around the house. Just
Terrible.
terrible things that I can't understand how they did. I cannot understand. It was
Was it true on it? Because I did hear um, on, I don't know where it was. It was on some YouTube chat that they had to take drugs before they did that to build
yes.
themselves up. They just didn't go in there and do the wicked things that they did, which was unimaginable, terrible. But they had to get into a state of
The drugs that they took, from what I understood, are drugs to make them able to continue going. Like, not drugs to so that they won't know what they're doing, but drugs that they'll be able to continue running and acting. They were planning on doing it for days.
yes,
So the drugs that they took were drugs that kept their bodies going as long as they possibly could. And the way that we know is that we found those drugs in the fields
yes.
in the area of the attack.
Well, I don't want to sound is it Islamophobic, but actually in the Quran, it does incite them to kill what they would say infidels. And these extreme terrorists are really pumped up with the idea when they die they'll have 12 virgins, and they need to kill Jews, and it's all very radical, very extremism.
Yes. And I don't know the Quran. I don't know exactly what it says, but to me, it takes me back to the thoughts of the terrorist attacks that we had in the beginning of the millennium. That also they said, if whatever terrorist bomber, suicide terrorist will get afterwards virgins or whatever in their heaven. And it's something that I don't know if it says it anywhere, but still, it's something that makes no sense to me whatsoever.
And for me, there's a few things were outstanding. And on that day, I mean, I am a Christian and I try to not judge people. But on that day, I was so upset that I couldn't stand to hear any Arabic. They're saying Allah Akbar, hearing that they slit open a pregnant woman, took the baby out, murdered the mother and the baby in front of her other children. And to see Shani Look or Lock or whatever her name was, in the back of that truck, I think she was dead at the time, and they were spitting at her. And I don't know how you would cope with it.
Yeah, it's hatred that you can't understand. I mean,
Yes.
I feel like hatred is too delicate a word for it. There was something there that felt so, I mean, there are no actual words that I can find to explain the feelings on that day, to explain the feelings ever since that day. The terrified feeling that a human being can actually be this cruel, this evil, this satanic, whatever you want to call it.
Satanic, I think, more than anything. And
Yeah.
also, to think, I watched, I can't remember, it's something, Screams Before Silence, and it was all about women who were raped.
Yeah.
And when you hear that and the implements they put inside those women, and they raped them until the pelvis had broken, I've been to Baghdad, I've worked with different people, but I've never seen what went on that day. It was just, you can't describe it, can you?
No, you can't. It's beyond understanding. And it's seriously the calls that we received and the things that we saw, because we also received live footage from the scene when people needed help. So we could get photos and live videos. And the things that we saw and the things that we heard is something that you can't even imagine. For instance, one of the people I spoke to that day was our paramedic, Amit Man, who was in the dental clinic in Be'eri for 8 hours treating patients who were shot while there were terrorists on the kibbutz, who in the end got into the clinic and killed her also. But after October 7th, a week and a half afterwards, when her family was done sitting Shiva, which means sitting the 7 days mourning her death,
Yes.
I went to visit them because they wanted to meet the people who spoke to her that day. And her mother told me that one of the creators of a very well-known army TV show in Israel called Fauda said he was there and he visited her during the Shiva. And he said to her, I have to tell you, the script of what happened on October 7th is something that no one would let us ever produce because it's so unbelievable that something like that would happen. It sounds like it's something from the worst movie in the world, sort of thing.
Mm.
It's just all of us are still trying to grasp it. We're all still injured and still bleeding and still, we're not even the post-trauma state yet. We're still in trauma.
Mm.
We're still, I mean, I work with Muslim people at Magen David Adom. Magen David Adom has every type of Israeli working there.
Yeah.
Muslim, Christian, Druze, Jewish, everyone. And I work with them and I trust them, but very often if I hear Arabic around me on the street, I can feel myself tensing up
Yes.
just because that's the reaction that we have now after all the Arabic we heard on October 7th of people shouting and Allahu Akbar and all that stuff.
And I think what's made it even worse was the other day when I saw the footage from Hamas of what they're doing to the hostages, that man who was skeletal and having to dig his own grave. And that's their mentality, which I find, you know, I know that there's terrorists all around the world. And I was married to a policeman in Northern Ireland in the 70s. And I've seen things, but I've never seen as evil mentality as what's going on today in Gaza, and the propaganda is just unspeakable. You
Yeah.
know, they haven't got any food, but there's all this. You can see all these containers that have never been opened, and water and whatever. And I don't understand why people in my country don't believe what happened on the 7th of October 23. And they don't even believe about the hostages. They just think it's an Israeli propaganda and going on and on and on about the genocide in Gaza. But the problem is people believe all this rubbish, and it really gets me cross. And you kind of think, what can we do? That's why I wanted to talk to you, because you're coming from being a person who is in an ambulance, who you believe as a group or as an ambulance service, you want to save all life regardless. So have you do you speak to your fellow people from all different faiths about what happened, and what do they feel about it all?
We all speak about it. And the main thing that everyone feels is a mixture of fear and anger.
Mm.
I remember a few days after October 7th, when we were still at the very, very beginning, a friend of mine, a Muslim ambulance driver, sat with me and cried over what happened, cried over fear for his family. Just like us, we all faiths are in this together. It was
Yeah.
attack on Israel, not attack on Jews. I mean, there were Druze, Arabs who were also murdered and tortured, just like the Jews, because they were in the area. It's not just Jews, and we're all in this together as much as we can. But what I want to say about the whole terrible stuff that's going on in Gaza and the famine and that thing, Hamas is running Gaza. I
Yes.
feel bad for the people who live in Gaza
Mm.
because if they don't follow the Hamas, then they might do the same thing to them that they do to us. I don't know what they do to them, but they have to follow the Hamas. It's a very strict way that they have to live.
Yes.
And the Hamas people seem like they're not humans. Well, to me, at least, that's the
No.
only way I can explain it to myself.
Well,
Definitely not.
Adrian and I went to Israel in May, and we went to your headquarters, and we really enjoyed the time. Um, But also, I mean, I'm partly Jewish. I found out in my ancestry, which makes it worse in a way. But a pastor from the old city asked us if we would like to go to see some Gazans who were in hospital because we both are clergy members. And had you just said that a few months or even a year after what happened, I'd have said no. But we went, we took some chocolates, we took some holding crosses, we took different things and shared them. We didn't know where we were going, or because obviously I think these are Muslim converts that took us. But when we went, I just said, I'm a Christian, you're a Muslim, we've come here to share love and give you some presents. And those Gazans were so happy. And, you know, I learned that you can't judge people or a situation. All you can do is what you're doing. You celebrate life. And that's what I try and do. And here in the Bournemouth area, we work with the Jewish people and try and build bridges with churches and possibly go on with Muslims as well. But when these things happen, it can be so destructive because, like in Jerusalem, they've lost so many businesses. There's no tourism. And so the whole thing has a huge knock-on effect. And what is the way forward? Because I don't know how you cope with it really, but obviously you're a professional. But what is the way forward?
Well, first of all, we've already learned that as Jews, as Israelis, we always continue forward. We will get through anything and everything. We've seen it over thousands of years. We are people that are always chased, and that there will always be someone who wants to get rid of us, and they will never manage to. And that's something that keeps us very strong. That's something that helps us stay together, stay as united as we can, even though there are a lot of political things going on in the background, and stay believing that we will get through this and we will rebuild ourselves. Yes. There's a lot more work on resilience now throughout the whole country and also inside Magen David Adom. We have a new project of mental health assistance for everyone in the country now, that we have paramedics and social workers who will go to people's houses if we see that there's a mental situation that needs immediate help. So we just continue trying to remember that we will get through this. And yes, there are more difficult days. And yes, there are times that we need to take a step back, and we all understand it, and we're all here to support each other. Jews, Christians, Muslims, Druze, whoever's with us, we're with them.
Yes.
Sort of thing.
You work as a family, don't you?
Absolutely. One big, happy family.
So did you actually witness yourself some terrible sights with the work that you're doing? Not obviously, you've seen probably videos and heard, but do you actually see anything on that day yourself?
Yes. I can tell you that I had someone sitting right next to me received a call from a 9-year-old girl who was in the safe room with her father and her brother. Her brother was dead, and her father's leg was amputated.
Oh dear.
And my friend did a video call with her, and I was right next to her, so I saw the whole video call, trying to help her. And she was also injured, the girl, but less injured than the father. So on the video call, she had the girl turn the camera around to look around the room what fabric they have or something in order to treat the wounds. She taught the girl how to put pressure on her own wound, and then how to do a tourniquet on her father's leg. The girl was sobbing the whole time. The father was semi-conscious, and you could hear while she's talking to her all of the shouting in the background. I received a call from a man who was in a hole in the ground, ran away from the Nova Festival. And he had 2 friends in that same hole in the ground who were dead. Another friend with shrapnel in his hip, and he was bleeding. And this man had shrapnel in his leg. And They had called us a few hours before, but because they were in the middle of a war zone, we couldn't reach them. And they were running out of water. And the man was very, very angry that no one had reached him yet.
Mm.
And I could understand his anger completely. And he started shouting. And I heard the Arabic around him, and I heard the shooting around him. And I kept on begging him to speak more quietly so that they wouldn't find him. And that was all I could do, except for explaining to him how to treat the wounds, which he didn't want to hear because he was so angry. I could only shout, I could only tell him again, please stop shouting, please be quiet. We don't want for them to find you. Hide. And this is something that I've never experienced before. I did national service rather than the army. So I've never learned anything about combat, anything about hiding, anything about this area. But using my common sense and trying to stay the calm person on the other side of the line was something that I had to do very often that day.
Yes.
Another call I received, which I think is one of the saddest calls, I received the first part of it from a woman who was in Netanya, in a different city in the country, whose sister was next to her and she's pregnant. And the sister's husband was hiding behind a tree somewhere down south. And they asked me to call him because he hasn't heard from anyone lately. And I called him, and the man he sounded very, very faint on the line. And I asked him if there's anyone there who he knows. And he said no. And I heard a lot of shouting around him. And I heard the shooting was nonstop. I could barely hear him because of all the shooting. The shouting was in Arabic. And I asked him if he's wounded. And he said, yes, he's wounded in his leg, but he can't look down. He's only looking forward. I told him I can explain him how to treat his wounds. He said, I can't. I'm only looking forward. And I told the man, okay, if you can't look down, I won't force you to. I want for you to continue looking straight forward. I want for you to think of your wife, think of your unborn child, how much you love them and how much you'll do everything in your ability to stay safe for them and to stay alive. And this grown man started sobbing. And within a couple of seconds, I heard a gunshot. I don't know if it was him getting shot, and then he disappeared. And that was the moment that this man died. It was just a day that you never knew what was going to come from next.
Mm.
And you hear people from sitting in the dispatch. I hear only their side of the call most of the time, saying, your safe room is getting full of smoke and there are terrorists in your house. Okay, so what you should do is, and no solution for what they should do.
Mm.
And people telling horrors that they're seeing outside their window. And it was just terrible. We have footage of terrorists on the kibbutz who walked into the kibbutz, went straight to the ambulance on the kibbutz, shot the tires or shot an RPG on the ambulance so that the ambulance wouldn't be able to save lives, and then go into the kibbutz to start their massacre. And these terrorists knew exactly where the ambulances were because the people on these kibbutzim were good friends of the people from Gaza. They believed in peace. They believed in coexistence. And these people were at their houses right before this massacre because they were friends, or at least that's what the Israelis thought.
Mm.
And that way they knew exactly where to go and exactly what to do. They had it all planned out in a way that even in the worst movies, they wouldn't be able to plan it like that.
Which would have been worse because they're actually there, weren't they, to take all the details and give it to Hamas so
Exactly.
they commit the atrocities. So what I'd like to ask you is, how do you cope with this? Because I suppose you're in a, do you think it's because you're in a professional capacity? But I don't think I could have coped with that. It was so horrific. How did you deal with it?
So first of all, for the first half of the day, my daughters were there. So as a mother, I knew that I had to keep everything in, stay focused so that I could be there for my girls. I went out to them in the middle and I spoke to them, and my 12-year-old cried and I hugged her and I promised her I'd keep her safe. And what she said to me was, I know, I love you, go back to work. So my girls felt my strength, and that way they managed to stay strong.
But did that give you strength, knowing that you were giving them strength?
Absolutely. It gave
Yes.
me a lot of strength. And also, I'm one of those people who they call me a dinosaur in Magenta Vidadom because I've been there for so long. So, as someone who's been through so much already, I
Mm,
know how somehow to put my emotions on the side and
mm,
to be very mind forward, to just think with my brain what needs to be done next, and also to keep an eye out for people around me, for
mm,
people who are having a tough moment, for people who need a break. I would very often puts up my hand on someone's shoulder and say, step out for a minute, it's okay. And I would find someone else to sit there instead of them. It's all very much about the help from the peers. Whenever through the war we feel, any of us feel like we're having a bit of a difficult day, we speak to each other. And
yeah.
speaking to each other and hearing from each other the experiences, ping-ponging our experiences, being able to talk freely about anger, about fear, about pain is something that is very, very helpful.
Do you think that really the October the 23rd, October the 7th, 2023 is as still real to people as it was then?
Absolutely. To us in Israel, it
Mm,
is very, very real. I can still, whenever I think of October 7th, hear the voices I heard, see what I imagined it looked like, and the photos and the videos that I saw, see all the footage from the Hamas that was on the TVs for a week or two after, that somehow the world erased afterwards, or Hamas erased. I don't know who erased it, but it was there. It was there for a week or two after
mm,
October 7th. And I can still see it and feel it and smell it, and everything that from back then is still absolutely alive. My daughters are still in therapy since October 7th. I
mm.
mean, everyone is still going through it. Everyone is still feeling it. Every hour on the radio, they mention at least once an hour the hostages who are really there, who really have family in Israel, who are waiting for their family members to return, family, friends, people who are waiting to see their loved ones again, to
Yes.
bury them or to hug them, whatever they can do.
Because if you have, say, if you're a mother and father and you have even an adult child, you can't let it go until they're put to rest, can you? And that's just
Absolutely.
terrible for me to think that they've still got bodies. Hamas have still got bodies of the hostages and the Bieber's family and the little baby and not getting the right coffin. And it's soul destroying, isn't it, for people?
Absolutely. It's destroying. And also, it's not even just children, it's also parents. I
Yes.
mean, it's everyone who's just waiting. The closure won't really help us get over everything. But
No.
the closure of having all of the Israelis back in Israel will be the beginning of being able to reach the post trauma and not just being in the trauma. Because right now we're all still living it.
What I'd like to ask you as well, you know, for me, and I think for you probably more than me, is the fact that people don't believe it's happened. They didn't believe that it was a, a genocide, but it was. And, you know, what can we do to make them see the reality of it all?
I really can't understand how they don't believe. I mean, it was on the news all over the world. Everyone saw the footage that Hamas showed, that Israel, that happened in Israel. There were over 5,000 terrorists physically on Israeli grounds, killing, raping, torturing,
Mm,
and it's some I can't understand how people can just erase facts,
mm.
because this is a fact. There really were terrorists in the country. There really was footage, and
And
somehow
that
it was
was from
erased from our
them
heads.
themselves, wasn't it?
Exactly. Them themselves, they were proud of what they did or something. And then afterwards, they understood that it's bad PR, so they canceled it. I don't understand how you can erase everything for all the footage that they sent out. I'm guessing that if anyone is talented enough and wants to, they'll be able to find at least some of that footage. But it's it's something that we're all feeling inside. And it
Mm.
can't be that a whole nation of people is feeling something that happened to us almost 2 years ago and so strongly, and we have still 50 people who are not at their homes because they were taken on that same day, almost 2 years ago, and they're still stuck there.
And another thing that I find amazing, or not in a good way, but I'm really annoyed about, is the fact that they'll say, oh, well, yes, there was a genocide. Oh, but there's a huge genocide in Gaza, but there's so much propaganda. I remember once on a video, we saw this man and he was on a stretcher, supposedly dead, with a blanket, and the siren went off, and this person jumped off the stretcher. And also, when you see these babies so malnourished, but their parents are quite fat, they've got nail polish and they've got makeup and jewelry, so they can't be that poor. As I say, stockpiles of food.
It's amazing to me what they're willing to do in order to convince the world, even if it's starving their babies. I mean, that's how far they're willing to go. Mm. Just like the IDF found in Gaza, entrances to tunnels and weapons underneath babies' cribs and in kindergartens and through hospitals. I mean, it's something that maybe it's so hard to believe that people are this evil, this awful, that they prefer to believe that, okay, Israel's doing a genocide. Okay, in Gaza, they're starving, even though they get amounts of food, but the Hamas takes over the food, and that's why maybe people are starving, and I feel bad for the people who are starving. I really do. Until October 7th, we would send ambulances to Erez checkpost to take critical patients who needed better treatment to hospitals in Israel. I mean, we really do feel for people who need stuff. We feel it. We absolutely do. We believe in the sanctity of life, even in a situation like this, but we can't have control over the people who have control in Gaza, which is the Hamas, who they're the ones who say, I'm guessing, say, starve your babies so that we can show that they're starving. Or let's take a picture of this person who has some sort of illness that looks very, very sick, so that the world will see that he's very, very sick, this child. I mean, it's amazing how good they are at PR.
And another thing is the fact that, when we went to Israel, we were near where the UN place was, and how when you go on to, because I look at YouTube a lot to see, footage, and the UN were actually helping Hamas on that 7th of October using their vehicles, because like the drones or planes, looking down, you could see the UN on the top of the car. Mm-hmm. And also I've heard in the testimonies of witnesses or the people that were actually kidnapped was that the UN were holding some of them hostage as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another thing that has happened. It feels like, to me personally, and I know some other people, I'm not going to say this in a everyone sort of thing, I don't know who we can trust anymore.
No,
it feels like we can only trust ourselves, and even that we need to be careful with it, because it's so confusing. The UN are supposed to be completely unbiased, completely for peace and everything like that, and look at what's happening. It's unbelievable.
And what I found really, well, it was quite telling actually, because when we're in the St. George's Cathedral guest house, and I was told that they were quite pro-Palestinian, but I didn't want to get involved with politics or whatever. So when I saw people on Nablus Road, I say, oh, hello, how are you? And you could tell they said, oh, and they were so pleased because they were as worried about my presence as I was theirs, wondering what I was going to say or do as a tourist. And when you said hello, and there was just that, I was so pleased to see that they were as relieved as me. And that's what I found. And that there was a Jewish lady crying because she never thought she'd see a tourist again from Britain. Arabs where the market is from Jaffa Gate down to Damascus Gate. And they were so pleased. And I saw a guy that I'd known for a while. Every time we go from the garden to the same guy that sells things, I said, "Where have you been?" And he was so pleased because we weren't aggressive.
Mm.
And that's what I tell people now. And even with those Gazan people, they were very, very friendly. And it's not everybody that
No.
is for Hamas. In fact, a lot of them are getting less so. So,
Yes.
can you, we've got 4 minutes left, so can you just bring a word for viewers and listeners, what you think would be a positive thing to think about all this?
So I think that the most positive thing that comes to mind is yes, October 7th was awful. War is terrible, horrendous. There are bad things going on, but in the end, all we want is to continue with our hope,
Yes.
to continue to be together and to remember that we will, just as we always have, get through everything and be stronger because of it. That's to me, what I keep on reminding my kids, what I keep on reminding myself, my peers at work. We will get through this and we will be stronger and we will be able to continue because we are strong already now.
And also, I do tell people that actually we're in Jerusalem. It's just no more different to here, and in fact, it's probably safe. I'm not talking about when Yemen sends bombs and things, but just generally, it's actually safer in Jerusalem than it is in England or UK. And that people just want to put food on the table, don't they, for the kids, generally speaking?
Yep. People want to put food on the table and to be able to smile and enjoy life. I mean, that's the basic thing. And day-to-day life in Jerusalem is pretty normal, but everyone here is a bit twisted still from everything that
Yes.
happened but yes, everyone's trying to live a normal life. A lot of people are going on vacations now, which is a way to kind of get away from all the craziness. Everyone warns each other about going overseas because here we know what we have, we know what we're dealing with. And as you said, in the UK, it might even be more dangerous than it is here.
Well, we do. We have
So,
lots of protesters, and from the river to the sea in our Jewish areas, and
mhm.
all this nonsense. As I say, and people don't believe. But what I want to say now, because the time's run out, is to thank you so much, Ronit, for you and your team for all you do. And when we had the Iranians sending rockets, we were very worried about you and your team, and we were praying for you and rooting for you. And so know that in England, many people love you and thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much. We know and we feel it, and it gives us a lot of strength. So
And
thank you
thank you.
so much.
Thank you for sharing what you did today. And I'm praying that people begin to realize how true October the 7th was and
Thank you.
is.
Me
And,
too.
and just thank you again. Thank you very much, Ronit. Bye bye.
Thank